Hey again, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm, and I'm up here on a field trip to the Summerland Ornamental Gardens in the Okanagan. It's a bit of an unusual climate for Canada. This is a climate that is arid, almost desert-like, and it is better suited these days towards wine grapes and fruit trees, unlike the wet west coast that I live on, so it's a very different kind of a garden. The history of this particular garden is really cool, and I'll get together with some volunteers who will tell us a little bit more about that. But basically, it's over 100 years old, so this was planted in stages over 10 or 11 decades now, and is currently maintained entirely by volunteers as a public garden. Have collections of irises like you see behind me, but also of peonies, roses, all sorts of things. So I might make this into two different videos. This first one just talking about the gardens themselves, and then after that I'll do a dedicated rose tour I hope you enjoy. All right, I'm here with Bonnie and Connie from the Summerland Ornamental Gardens. And what is this place?
This place is a secret garden hidden on the top of a mountain in the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia. And we normally, our climate is an arid climate. And essentially this garden was developed by the federal government. And it started in 1916 and was purely here for educational purposes, to attract pioneers and people to come to the Okanagan to buy land, to see what they could grow and find out what they could grow. And that has evolved over 100 years, and the research area continues and has progressed from tobaccos and hemp and pigs and chickens and cows, all kinds of different research done, to today to being mostly the majority fruit trees and grapes. So essentially this garden, and there's 15 acres that is designated as ornamental garden, and that garden started in 1916 as well, to show pioneers what could grow here. The majority of people coming here were from Great Britain and settling here, and of course they were coming from quite a different climate. So there was a lot to learn, so it had an education purpose. And that mandate is today as well. Water usage is critical, and that is something that we continue to work on. Our society is to promote that and educate the public and to show what can continue to grow. The Friends of the Garden is our society, and our society in 1991 took over the gardens. The gardens were going to be let go and returned back to natural, which would have been pine trees and long grasses 3 feet tall waving in the wind in a desert, and that essentially was it. So in 1991 the society did not want to lose this garden, so they were formed, and so we've been together for about 35 years now. 32 years. And this is what has evolved. We've managed to maintain and keep the gardens through donations. It's totally volunteer driven. So essentially today the way the gardens are is a result really of this volunteer group of Friends of the Gardens.
Yeah. And this is where the Kettle Valley Rail train comes out, and it sits on the trestle while they reload the water.
In the late 50s and early 60s, this entire west border facing this trestle had a wall of lavender that was developed here at this research station, and it was carved and pruned to read Dominion Experimental Station. And it could be read in that lettering format from the train.
Yeah.
And for years it was on the, I think it was Canadian Pacific's calendar. It was one of the hits. So people quite looked forward to seeing this, and it was just a purple welcome, but all in letters you could read.
Wow.
Fully pruned.
I have a nice garden, and I have some nice mountains as a view, but I don't have this. This is quite nice. I don't know where you get more landscape like this. The train coming by, that's amazing.
Jason, one of the things that we have done over the years is we are working to limit the number of annuals we plant. This used to be an amazing garden, which a lot of the color came from annuals. But we're trying, as part of sustainability and as part of our drought-tolerant planting, to convert many of our beds to perennials. But this is one area where we keep for color. We do keep the annuals, but they are mixed in with a background as well of perennials.
Yeah, what I really do love about this garden is a great mix. I mean, annuals are great for color, but you've also included many perennials, lots of shrubs, lots of trees,
Yeah.
roses, things that do color all the
And
way
yours.
through the season, which
That's
is
right.
This,
and that's
this
our
garden, that is
Yeah.
exactly what it is. It's a garden for all seasons.
great.
If you can get up here in the wintertime, then there's even beautiful contrasts and textures to see in the wintertime as well. This is a photographer's dream. We have many photographers coming up here. All these flower beds you see, there are teams created with the volunteers, and they, under a team leader, work certain areas so that they can learn what plants particularly in that area, how to prune, how to keep, this sort of thing, and have a season, full season with these plants. And it's really interesting, since I think it's 4 years now that we've had teams developed in this area, and it's actually been very, very successful. And I like the concept of the team in a way, because you can pick up, boost your knowledge base for one thing, but you also get to claim that area. And it's amazing because people come here not even on the days that they're assigned work. They come up in their extra time, and that's their bed. And they're working in there, and they're doing their work, and they know what they're doing. So it's really quite a pleasure to work with volunteers who are so enthused and passionate about what they're doing, and just to get in the dirt and work and learn. And now I'm getting to the point where these teams are evolving, that they say, I'd like to work on another team now because they want to learn something else.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's going to be a little bit of a shifting going on for a while, and that's fine, and that's great, because we're just building such a strong base, a very solid volunteer base to actually work in the gardens and help keep the gardens.
Right.
So
And our teams are a combination of people who have had their own gardens and have downsized and moved into townhomes or apartments, and they still want to garden, so it gives them the opportunity to come and still enjoy their delight in garden and in planting and flowers. So it really is an opportunity for people who otherwise wouldn't have their garden anymore.
Right on. Okay, I'm going to put each of you on the spot. I'm sorry. What's your favorite garden? What's your favorite collection, favorite part of the garden? What do you like the best?
I like the shade garden.
Okay.
That is my area. I absolutely love. There's twisted trees with texture, and then there's bright colors, and then there's hidden secrets. Yeah, the shade garden's my favorite.
All right, now I'm putting you on the spot.
My favorite garden actually is the Xeriscape garden.
Okay.
And in part because I came from Burnaby and I had a beautiful shade garden there. And my first experience here was coming up because I am now on a slope, totally exposed slope in Summerland, and I didn't know what to do with it. I came up and I experienced the Xeriscape garden, and it was done 27 years ago initially. So we're now in the stages of renewing it and regenerating and changing. And I just love to be in there and see what we're doing and come up with the ideas for where we can go with it now in the future.
Great.
And it's a wonderful education location for people who do move to the Okanagan and are left going, what do I do when it's 95 degrees and that hosta isn't going to grow anymore for me? Which is why I came to appreciate it. Yeah.
This tree is an English weeping beech, and it's one of the original plantings, so it has quite an age. I would think somewhere to 97 to 100 years old. I always tell people that this is the coolest spot in town, because when it is very warm here, you can go under that tree. The canopy is absolutely massive, and it's cavernous in there. The ground is bare and always damp, so you get the evaporative. So the temperature under this tree is about 10 degrees less than what it is out here.
Wonderful.
But you have to experience it. You have to go under it and try. The thing is, looking up the tree, you're going to see all kinds of carved initials. Through the years, this was a great meeting spot because you were incognito.
And there are hearts and initials in the tree, and as the tree has grown, those initials have creeped up
They're
the trunk,
high.
so they're well above our height,
Yeah.
which is really neat.
And as a little girl, this was one of my favorite places to play as well. The thing with this tree is I was told that it was planted upside down. And that's why it is the way it is. Of course, I believed that for years. Some of the older trees that were planted, my grandfather was the head gardener here from 1927 era when he arrived from Belfast. And he was here till 1963 in his retirement. And these silver plates, you will see tin plates that actually have the original, or I should say the botanical name of the tree, and then the everyday term as well. And it's still his handwriting, his script. And he had a special formula of black ink that he mixed so that it would last. Now this is one of the few I can barely read now, but there's still several in the garden that I can fully read what they are.
Well, that must be very special for you.
So the original nameplates are still there.
That must be very special for you as a connection to your grandfather.
It is. It is.
Edge of the Great Lawn, and for those who aren't familiar with the Great Lawn at Summerland Gardens, you mentioned to me that this is a place where families would come, community groups would come.
Community groups would picnic here, have big events here, and even on our 100th anniversary we celebrated with the public coming. So this lawn was full of people celebrating and just enjoying each other's company and the coolness of the greenery, the lawns.
It was a wonderful occasion.
Yes.
Right. Well, I have to say, some people don't believe in the benefits of lawn anymore in gardens and are moving away from that. But as a place for the community to gather and to enjoy their community gardens, and with edges like these.
And more green space. And green space has value in it too, that it has such a cooling effect. And here we are in a desert. So it's almost an oasis on top of a mountain.
Right. And this is the peony garden.
This is the peony bed, which has really come into its own in the last year.
So peony trees in the background, which are finished pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the others have come, of course. Just really putting on a show now.
Wow.
And then for the rest of the season, we have other perennial plants that come into bloom and give color throughout the season.
Do you know the original idea, planting idea from the original gardeners who started here in 1916? The two of them, the story is, they took the plan from an English china plate.
Really?
And there actually was a painting on this English china plate of a garden. And they thought, well, let's have a starting point. And that the two fellows, the two original gardeners, got together and that's what they went from. That's the story.
Well, now, tell me you have a china plate around here that you can attach to that story.
We're coming up on the superintendent's house.
Yes.
This was the resident for the government superintendent for the research station. For many years, I think there was a resident there until 1961.
It must be a wonderful thing to do, a collaborative process.
It is. So we have some
I
wonderfully talented people, and it's wonderful to engage them in this process. So we're not a place that hires any landscapers or anything. This is all volunteer work, and all their gifts result in the beauty of this gardens.
A lot of people do feel intimidated if they want to come and volunteer. They say, well, I really don't know a lot. They feel, and I always encourage them as a volunteer coordinator, I'd say everyone is at a different point on the learning curve, and we all have different interests, but you know what? When you become part of a team, you contribute. You have something to contribute, and we all learn, and we're all at different places in our gardening experiences. So to work on a team, it's wonderful because you are contributing, you're also learning, and it just brings that cohesiveness to the team as well. And many of the volunteers who come say, oh, they're a little leery, and then they absolutely find they're enjoying the experience to the absolute limit because they love the camaraderie, they love what they're learning, they feel they're contributing, they're very much a part of it. All our volunteers are members, so we have a very high percentage of our membership in our society are our volunteers.
Wonderful.
Works very well.
Everybody's got a real stake in the garden.
Yeah. I find too when I first meet up with someone, I try to do a one-to-one walkabout in the garden with them before they actually fully commit. They're given a document as to who we are, what we're about, this kind of thing to preview before they come. And then I spend time in the garden with them. Sometimes it's 2.5 hours. And I take great pleasure myself in doing that, but I find it builds a good relationship. I know this volunteer, basically, I know how fit they are. Are they going to be able to do this? And I have had a volunteer say, I can't do this.
Right.
So it has been of great value to do this one-to-one and walk through the gardens with them. And then you have that connectedness as well. So even the volunteer coordinator, we're all one big team.
Right.
So it's a wonderful body of people to be working with.
Here our agreement with the federal government, because this is all part of the research station property, we cannot charge admission for the public. So we ask for donations, and one of the ways is throughout the gardens we have these wonderful little flower pot donation bins that people can contribute to, or they can contribute online thanks to QR codes these days. And one of my chores that I thoroughly enjoy with my dogs every night is, it is really true, the bins are emptied daily, and I'm up here with our pooches walking and empty the bins daily. But it's wonderful, and people are very generous with their donations as they do come through, and we manage entirely on that.
Wow, what a great save. I mean, imagine letting a historical treasure like this place fall into into nothing. So thank you both for that.